Good afternoon and welcome to the June Ordinary Council meeting. I will now hand over to Councillor Greg James to perform a welcome to country.
Thank you, Mayor Sally and my fellow councillors. Firstly, I pay respects to our ancestors. I acknowledge our elders, both past, present and emerging. I would like to acknowledge the Eora Nations and all its people whose land we meet on today. So on behalf of the Elders Council, the 16 family groups and the 8 respected tribes who proudly share in the status of traditional owners of this land, I say a very warm welcome to this wonderful country and waterways. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, Councillor James. Item 2, acknowledgement. We, Greater Shepparton City Council, acknowledge the Eora peoples of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders. We celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Item 3, privacy notice. This streamed live via our Facebook page and made available for public access on our website along with the official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you share at the meeting, including personal and sensitive information, to any person who accesses those recordings or minutes. And we do welcome members of the public gallery, especially former Councillor Kevin Gunner Ryan, OAM. Great to see you here, mate. Item 4, governance principles. Council considers that the recommendations contained in this agenda gives effect to the overarching governance principles stated in section 9(2) of the Local Government Act 2020. These principles are as followed, and councillors, they're numbered 1 to 9 on page 6 of the agenda. Item 5, apologies. Do we have any apologies this afternoon, councillors? No apologies. Item 6, declarations of conflict of interest. Do we have any conflicts this afternoon, councillors? Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'll declare a conflict of interest on item 12.3 of the agenda, the potential future sale, lease or gift of council-owned land for affordable housing at 84 to 90 High Street, Shepparton and Rose Street car parks.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Do we have any other conflicts this afternoon? Councillor Brophy.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd like to declare a conflict of interest on item 13.4, which is 90 Sevens Creeks Drive land purchase. It's in the confidential report there, as I own land adjacent to that area.
Great, thank you so much, Councillor Brophy. Item 7, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting. Councillors, do we have any minutes of the previous meeting opposed? No. Can I please have someone move the recommendation to accept the minutes?
Thanks, Councillor Sally. I move that the minutes of the 16th of May 2023 council meeting as circulated be confirmed.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Can I have someone second that motion?
I'll second.
Councillor Abdullah. All in favour? Motion carried. Unopposed. Item 8, public question, nil received. Item 9, deputations and petitions, nil received. Councillors, we now go to page 8 of the agenda, item 10.1, which is Small Town Festive Decoration Grant Program 2023. There is a recommendation. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion? Councillor Abdullah.
I'll move the recommendation on page 8.
Thank you, Councillor Abdullah. Can I please have a councillor second that motion? Brophy.
I second that motion.
Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Mayor Sally, just briefly that this motion is about only about noting and noting of the successful applicants who were awarded funding under Delegated Authority for Small Town Festive Decorations Program 2023. It's one of the long-running programs. Council offers grants to our small towns to participate in festive decorations during Christmas. So I'm pleased to see that many small towns had applied for funding, and different groups in those towns had applied for funding, and this report is basically noting those grants that have been awarded to those groups in the small towns. So yeah, looking good, and very pleased to see the active participation from so many groups in our small towns.
Thank you, Councillor Abdullah. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Just very briefly, to cover areas including Tatura, Bumbartha, Merrigan, Tallygaroopna, Toolamba and Mooroopna, all within that one funding round, but also covering recreation reserves, the Lions Club and also Men's Shed. All very important community groups that we have in our municipality. This is a small amount of money, but it serves the purpose and the grant very well. I'm really pleased to see it being awarded.
Very good. Thank you, councillor Brophy. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? No? Before I go to the vote, councillor Abdullah, did you have any closing comments?
No, thanks.
No? Very good. We now go to vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 13 of the agenda, item 10.2, Community Matching Grants Round 2, 2022/23. Again, there is a recommendation. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion? Need a mover? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you, councillor Sally. I move the recommendation as it is printed on page 13 of the agenda.
Thank you, councillor Spinks. Can I have someone second that motion? Councillor Brophy.
Second that motion.
Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, yes. These, as always, are a fantastic way to provide a little bit of funding to support the development and implementation of projects and activities all across our municipality. They are always a broad range of different projects from different towns, from different community groups, from different organisations. The sheer breadth, I think, is a great strength of this grant program. And obviously today we're just noting the successful applicants, but congratulations to all those who've had funding awarded.
Great, thank you, councillor Spinks. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Look, thank you, Mayor Sully. Just again, very briefly, this is split across 11 organisations, with 3 being in Murchison, which is terrific for Murchison. Each such a worthwhile community organisation, and it's nearly $38,000 that's been put towards the community matching grants program, and this is on top of already round 1, which was $37,000 as well. So it's a very well subscribed grants program, and congratulations to all of those that were successful.
Thank you, councillor Brophy. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? No. Any closing comments, councillor Spinks?
No, thank you.
Very good. We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 19 of the agenda, item 10.3, Reconciliation Action Plan Innovate 2023-2025. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor Sully. I move the recommendation 10.3, Reconciliation Action Plan Innovate 2023 to 2025 on page 19 of the agenda, and I'll read out the reco. The recommendation says that the council adopt the Greater Shepparton Reconciliation Action Plan Innovate July 2023 to July 2025 as attached.
Thank you, councillor James. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Brophy.
I second that motion.
Councillor James, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sully. Since 2006, Reconciliation Action Plans, or RAPs abbreviated, have enabled organisations to sustainably and strategically take meaningful action to advance reconciliation in its fullest. Based around the core pillars of relationship, respect and opportunities, RAPs provide tangible and substantive benefits for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, increasing economic equity and supporting all aspects of self-determination for First Nations people. This current RAP presented to us for endorsement builds on our first RAP, Reflect, 2019 to 20, adopted by Council in 2019. The first plan enabled Council to review and improve its current practices, policies and procedures to increase opportunities for self-determination and empowerment for First Nations people. Very important for our mob. Some achievements during this first RAP include formalising a Memorandum of Understanding with the Yorta Yorta Nations Aboriginal Corporation. Through the Alcabona Employment Programs Agreements, we achieved the targets of employing 2% of First Nations people within the workplace. This was achieved mid-year in 2020 with a new target of 5% set for further achievement. We had 109 council employees complete the Healing the Spirit cultural awareness training delivered by our very own Robin Nelson, who's quite very strong in regards to the awareness of cultural awareness training. She's been doing that for quite some time now, very experienced in that program. Then we had 73 council employees complete online training on closing the gap strategies and programs. Suffice to say that the first RAP Reflect plan was a success, with many achievements and outcomes gained, but also lots for us to consider into the new RAP plan as well. This current RAP Innovate 2023 to 2025 commenced in January 2021. Reconciliation Australia provided the direction on the requirements for the development of our Innovate plan, including templates and guidelines for the formation of the Greater Shepparton Reconciliation Action Plan Working Group. The consultation for this RAP commenced with an extensive two-phase process from September 21 to September 2022. More than 380 community members and 10 Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal organisations provided feedback on key questions, and they were: what does reconciliation mean to you? And how can council make reconciliation matter? Now, they're very key questions for our community to address and also to put out for conversation. The data received from these consultations provided the foundation for identified themes, including actions attached to 4 key pillars mandated by Reconciliation Australia. A major key to this current plan was the establishment of a Reconciliation Action Plan Implementation Working Group. This was a key requirement of Reconciliation Australia, as the group has the responsibility of the governing body. And might I say, Ms. Sally, that group was a very powerful group. It actually consisted of key representatives from our community and come up with some strong conversations during that process. So that was a great community to establish. Members of this Shepparton RAP Working Group was established in July 2022. Members were appointed via an expression of interest process on the criteria of had to demonstrate they were committed to reconciliation, a willingness to connect with the First Nations people, and connection to country, very important for our people as well. Membership comprised of a maximum of 12 members representing First Nations and non-First Nations agencies. This working group, Mayor Sally and councillors, are to be congratulated for their contribution and their commitment in achieving this current Reconciliation Action Plan. This plan is ready for our endorsement in line with final endorsement to be achieved from Reconciliation Australia. And finally, can I just say a special thank you to our council officers for their efforts, and also extra special mention to our Aboriginal Engagement Officer, Bianca Cadillac-Firebrace. She's done an awesome job in pulling this all together and getting those groups together as well. So I just wanted to make special mention of her work in this current plan that we're endorsing today. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillor James. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. I think Councillor James really did sum that up absolutely superbly. As he mentioned, we've gone into the second instalment of the RAP. We're going from Reflect to Innovate. He did mention, of course, in regards, Councillor James did mention the community identified themes, and I'll just spell them out. Theme 1 was acceptance and acknowledgement. Theme 2 being cultural safety, freedom and equality. And the third community identified theme being education and employment. And as you rightly pointed out, the 4 pillars that fall in and around that is relationships, respect, opportunities and governance. The framework, the plans and the narrative is all very positive. What I can say is, but they mean very little if they're not backed up by action. I am so pleased to report that action has been very strong, particularly in the first RAP, by Councillor James, very strong and supported by council staff, by the executive and also by councillors as well, and certainly embraced by the public. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion?
Yes, thanks, Councillor Sally. Obviously, Councillor James has covered it completely, very well, as did Councillor Brophy. I just want to add, a few years ago when the Al Gabonia agreement was talked about and put in place, I'm happy to see we did achieve that 2% mark. I think that's fantastic. I don't know what's happening in the future, but I'd like to see that increased, if not doubled and more. I'm sure there is things in place, Peter, maybe yes, maybe no, but if not, they should be. We can't be just satisfied with that amount. We should be always striving to better that number. So I fully support the whole RAP and the new plan as well. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, councillor Adam. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? No. Councillor Summer?
Thank you. Just, is it, the Albergonia agreement's going up to 5%, is it not? Just to clarify?
Yes.
Yes, so that is great. I just remembering back to when we were discussing having the first plan and how long it took to actually roll that out. It was very difficult. There's a lot of sensitivities and deliberations, and it was great that we actually got one. And now we seem to have ironed out the kinks in that last one. I can fully support this plan going forward. So any other councils who might have second thoughts or apprehensions about going down this path, just remember it's a work in progress and it needs to be done so that we have a starting point. And I'm just so proud of this council that we don't just have one, we've moved on to our second and it's had some really great wins. So yeah, I totally support it.
Very good, thank you, councillor Summer. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? No, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, actually, before I do that, closing comments, councillor James?
Oh, yeah, just finally, thank you, Mayor Sally. I want to thank my fellow councillors for the support that they've provided in this council. Now, I skite about that plan wherever I go, Councillor Sally, and I think that is a strong indication about that. And I skite very proudly about that too as well. It's a strong indication of our community and how well that they work together. And it's a very strong and cohesive community with vision on where we want to get to and for our future, for our children. And I think this RAP plan will act as a really guiding and a shining light for our community to move forward to as well, with some great outcomes. And as Councillor Adam did mention, yes, that 2% employment was achieved early at the stage, and we are working, and if not, we're probably heading close to that 5% employment mark already. Thank you.
No, thank you, councillor James. Okay, we'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Also, I'd like to welcome councillor Ben Ladson. He's now online with us. Councillors, we go to page 28 of the agenda, item 10, Greater Shepparton Access and Inclusion Grant 2023. Is a recommendation. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion? Can I get a mover?
Happy to move.
Yep.
Councillor Sally. I will move the recommendation as it is printed on page 28 of the agenda.
Very good. Thank you, councillor Smith. Can I have a councillor second that motion?
I'll second that motion, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, councillor Spinks. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, yes. This is our inaugural access and inclusion grant. So it's the first time we're running it, which is a really exciting opportunity. And it is in response to a notice of motion from a couple of years ago. Basically, this grants program is aiming to create a more accessible and inclusive Greater Shepparton community, and it's a way for community groups or organisations to access funds to do the improvements needed to create that access and inclusion. And here we can see that there are 4 applicants being awarded funding. All of them are for really different projects. They're for really different purposes. What we're seeing, what I really see from this is that there are so many different ways to improve access and inclusion. And though this particular grant round has not used up the full budget of the that was originally allocated, and there will be more budget proposed in the 23-24 program. What we're seeing is the first of these start to come through. So as people become more familiar with them, as people start to understand how they can be utilised, how they can access the grant funding and put their applications in, I hope that we will continue to see even more of a range of projects coming in. So I'm very excited to see these first 4 projects being allocated, and congratulations to those successful applicants. And I hope that we will continue to see this particular grant funding keep going well into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Spinks. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Mayor Sally, obviously there's 4 different organisations that were successful there, and that's fantastic. They're all valid and they all matter to different segments of our community. I want to comment on Horses for Hope. Going out there 3 or 4 years ago, and I was actually blown away by the the whole delivery of their service. And some people may not actually understand what goes on out there. But once you go there and you see firsthand the absolute marvellous work they do and the help they actually provide to vulnerable people in our society who've got issues. And yeah, I was just made me think back to that. I was really blown away by that. And I think we had discussions then how the council assist. We were already assisting in other ways. I reckon this $10,000 for a heap of work out there, especially it's literally, quite literally gives them access to the site and the facility. So, yeah, all are great, but I just thought I'd comment on that one. Thank you.
Councillor Adam, are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sali. Exactly what Councillor Adam had just mentioned there. This was another funding stream that was initiated by council, and I can congratulate Councillor Summer here, who'd really pushed for this going back some time ago, and with the support of other councillors in this particular term. But it sees the Toolamba Recreation Reserve, GV Pride and GV Woodturners all getting some or receiving some modest funding to it. But as Councillor Adam just pointed out there, that I'm so thrilled too that to see the Horses for Hope receiving $10,000. It will be better access, upgrade the footpaths and the access ramp there. And this is exactly what this particular funding thing was intended for. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? No, any closing comments, Councillor Spinks?
Just to say, I think it's $14,000 well spent.
Very good, thank you. We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 37 of the agenda, item 10.5, which is Creative City Grants Round 1, 2022-2023. There is a recommendation. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion? Councillor Abdullah.
I'll move the recommendation on page 30 as a motion.
Thank you, Councillor Abdullah. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Adam.
I'll second the motion. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
So this motion is, again, it's for council to note the successful applicants who are awarded funding under delegated authority for the Creative City Grants projects. And the list of these applicants is here on this as a part of this motion. This particular program was run as a part of our Creative City strategy from 2022. And previously, this program was known as Community Arts Program, but it's been rebranded and strategy that was launched in 2022. So basically, the idea is to promote creativity, arts, and culture, and everything to do with our creative city campaign. And I'm very pleased to see that this program was very well received. And actually, we received 13 applications where we had a pool of only $20,000 available. So those 13 applications were requesting overall a sum of $54,000 nearly of funding, and the pool available is only to $20,000. So it's in a way it's pleasing, but it's also disappointing for others who were not able to receive this grant. However, another pleasing factor is that the successful applicants, they come from different parts of Greater Shepparton. We have one coming from Dookie, another project based in Tatura, and then another one in Central Shepparton. So in that sense, it's been kind of really well executed. So looking at the project details in this report, I am so pleased to see that what wonderful work our community is doing, and we truly want to achieve that vision of making this a creative city. So well done to all the applicants, and congratulations on receiving this grant.
Very good, Councillor Abdullah. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Just to add to that, I'm very pleased to see the council are gradually moving towards creating these categories of grants, rather than previously years gone by, they're all community grants at the end of the day, we know that, but some of these things would get lost amongst hundreds, if not more than that, of different projects and applicants. So to categorise them like this, I think it's clear, people can see that the money is going to this particular part of our community, well defined. It carries more weight, I think, too, via the application. So I won't comment on the individuals. They're all worthy, of course, and I'm happy that that's gone there. But I'm glad to see that we are actually applying more focus onto each of the different aspects of our community via these grants.
Very good, thank you, councillor Adam. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Dobson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Sally. Just the last two items on the agenda just shows that even though, you know, we are going through times that some people would call tough, there's still room for this council to help out community groups in one way, shape or form. And when it comes around next time for these grants, when they're advertised, I just ask that more community members get on board and to see if we can help. But terrific stuff. And as somebody mentioned a moment ago, it's not only Shepparton, it's not Shepparton centric. The last two items are right throughout the Goulburn Valley. So well done to the community for putting up their application, and well done for the council for applying the money. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, councillor Dobson. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? No, councillor Abdullah, any closing comments?
No, thanks.
Thank you, councillors. We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 45 of the agenda, item 11.1, insurance renewal tender for insurance broking and risk management services 2023 to 2024. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Adam.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'll move the motion as printed on page 45. I will read it, it's not that long, that the council approve the awarding of contract 2316 insurance broking and risk management services. Contract to Jardine Lloyd Thompson, JLT. Note that the contract term is for a period of 2 + 1 years, and authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign and execute the contract documents as required.
Thank you, councillor Adam. The councillor second that motion. Councillor Dobson.
Yeah, I'll second that motion as read by Councillor Dem.
Councillor Dobson. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sally. Obviously, this is a tender for insurance broking services. It's unfortunate we only had one tenderer, but that's the way it was. So they were a successful tenderer. That doesn't mean that these people are brokers, obviously. So if you look at the different companies that we deal with via them, there's quite a good spread there. So it's QBE seems to feature a bit there. Obviously, they're delivering a good, valuable service. Different ones there, so I'm confident that they've done the job well, this company, over the last few years, and I'm hoping and supporting them moving forward.
Thank you, councillor Adam. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mayor Sally. Just looking at the premiums, the expiring premium and the suggested new premium, there's about $9,000 difference in the two, which is unsurprising, really, considering some of the premiums that have been quoted around the Goulburn Valley of recent times have jumped a bigger percentage. The one part that does concern me, though, is the notation there that talks about the estimated $15.6 million in flood losses from the 22-23 year, which is ongoing, and it talks about they're not in a position to commit to renewal terms and conditions at this point. I just hope that this is not going to be an ongoing problem with us, and I'd be very interested to see what the final outcome there is, but it could be a fairly severe situation. But I congratulate the tenderer. There's, as mentioned, there's only one tenderer, but that's a pretty reasonable increase. But as I say, I'm worried about the flood impact. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, councillor Dobson. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Before we go to the vote, councillor Adam, any closing comments? Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 50 of the agenda, item 11.2, May 2023 monthly finance report. Councillors, there is a recommendation. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Saleh. I put forward the recommendation on page 50 that the council receive and note the May 2023 monthly financial report.
Thank you, councillor Brophy. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Latson. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Saleh. We're now well into June and we're getting very close to the end of the financial year. So we're at very much at the pointy end of everything, because the forecast or the adopted budget now should be lining up with the actuals, and we're pretty close. Do the ducks line up? That's what we sort of look at now, with a month to go in terms of the previous budget. The adopted budget, with all its variances, the pluses, the minuses, the challenges, and all the windfalls, have all come into this particular pointy end now. Recurrent funding should well and truly have been banked by us. The rates predominantly paid, expenses have signed off, and the capital works all adjusted, ready to go, either into the next financial year or covered off in this one. So looking at it, overall, the projected full year underlying operational position, which now looks at being at $18.27 million in deficit, compared to the adopted budget, which was $21.6 million. That's $3.5 million on the improve, with still a month to play out on that. The capital works are certainly on track financially when you look through all of the report there, and our liquidity is predicted at 159%, and that is more than desirable for what we require there. It's brief and to the point, because obviously we get to the end of into next month and we have a full snapshot of what the whole year looked like in retrospect.
Councillor Brophy. Councillor Latson, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor Saleh.
Thank you, councillor Latson. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Mayor Saleh. Just looking at some of the main points. The adjusted surplus is one as a percentage of underlying revenue, and I've just lost it here. Yeah, there we go. The loans and borrowings always interest me to make sure that that they are in line, but these are a percentage of rates. The actual is 21.83%, and our adopted budget was 21.23%. So we're pretty well on target there, as Councillor Brophy has already pointed out. The financial health talks about the current assets as a percentage of current liabilities. The actual is 144.55%, as against the a budget of 124.6%, and the forecast of Q3 is 134.4%. So what that's telling me is that our funds are well managed, and we're in line with where we said we'd be. The only one that, of course, that's down is the asset renewal and upgrades. We're at 95%, going north of 100% on asset renewal is always a target. And I guess over the next couple of years, we'll be looking at that fairly strongly, but I'd like to see that increase. But all in all, a great result, and we're nearly to the end of the financial year, and that'll tell the real tale. But a fair result to date, Mayor Saleh.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? No. Any closing comments, Councillor Brophy?
No, thank you, Mayor Saleh.
We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 54 of the agenda, item 11.3, contracts awarded under delegation May 2023. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that to this motion? Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor Saleh. I move the recommendation 11.3, the contracts awarded under delegation May 2023 on page 54 of the agenda. And I'll read out the reco. It is recommendation that the council, 1, note no contracts were awarded under delegation pursuant to formal tender process for the reporting period, and 2, note the request for tender advertised but not yet awarded.
Thank you, Councillor James. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Adam.
I'll second the motion, Mayor Saleh.
Councillor James, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Saleh. In number 1, there are no contracts awarded under delegated authority. In number 2, request for tenders advertised but not yet awarded. There are 7 in total. I'll read these out, Mayor Sully, as most of these tenders have significant terms of 2, 3 and 4 years. First one is lump sum contract for the provision of printer, lease and maintenance services over 4 years. The second one was a schedule of rates contract for provision of party and event equipment hire services. Again, initial term of 3 years with 2 single-year options. Third is schedule of rates contract for provision of internal audit services. Again, 3 years with 2-year options. Lump sum contract for compliant asbestos removal, 90 Wellsford Street, Shepparton. Excuse me. Schedule of rates contract for provision of line and road marking services, panel of supplies, initial term of 2 years with a 1-year option. Lump sum contract for Queensland fruit fly trapping grid and monitoring. And the last one is schedule of rates contract for provision of heavy plant and equipment hire, wet and dry hire services, panel of supplies, initial term of 3 years for a 1-year option. So I'd read them out, Mayor Sully, because they are significant contracts of 3 and 4 years with extensions 1 and 2.
Great,
Thank you, Mayor Sully.
Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor Sully.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? No? Go to the vote. Any closing comments, Councillor James?
No, thank you.
Okay, go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, we now go to page 57 of the agenda, item 11.4, Audit and Risk Management Committee membership. There is a recommendation. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Saley. I'd like to put forward the recommendation on page 57 of the agenda, and that is the recommendation that Council 1 accept the resignation of Vivek Chopra, independent member of the Audit and Risk Management Committee, and acknowledge the valuable contribution he has provided to the committee. And 2, approve the reappointment of Goran Medrevsky to the position of the Chair of the Audit and Risk Committee for the next 12 months, commencing the 21st of June 2023 and concluding on the 31st of May 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Adam.
Motion, Mayor Sully.
Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Saley. Yes, as acknowledged here in the recommendation, certainly Vivek has been a very valuable contributor to the Audit and Risk Management Committee. In fact, all of the independent members that are part of the Audit and Risk Committee do a tremendous job in regards to that. And I was very pleased too to see that Goran has been put up to the position of chair for a further 12 months. His chairmanship is excellent and really makes sure that we do cover everything off in regards to that. The level of inquiry, the level of appetite to cross-check and follow up the areas of finance and risk are really first-rate in this particular committee. Having an external, competent and professional individuals on the committee certainly pays dividends. There are lots of mechanisms in place for fiscal accountability, and this is certainly one that the public should know about and have confidence in having this particular committee.
Great, thank you, Councillor Brophy. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sully. This committee is probably one of the less visible committees that are involved with council, yet probably one of the natural fact. And I know you as Mayor Sully are fully aware of that. It's good to see that a well-credentialed person is coming to replace the previous person. Well, not so much replace, but Mr. Chopra is well-credentialed. I've heard only great things, very competent, and it's good to see that Mr. Mitrevsky is also highly regarded. We need top quality people on that committee, and it seems that even though we're losing one, adding another one. So, good work.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Adam. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? No. I'll just really quickly just highlight there that Vivek is obviously resigning, but Goran is getting another year, Councillor Adam, as chair, and we have got application process, I think currently underway to fulfil the vacancy made by Vivek as well. So we look forward to reviewing those applications. I'm sure we'll have someone extremely skilled to support not only the mayor and deputy that sit on the committee, but the other council representatives and Goran as chair. So any closing comments, councillor Brophy?
Oh, pardon me. Yes, Mayor Sally, just in respect to that, I think by early August, we'll know who the replacement will be on that particular committee.
Very good, thank you so much. We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 60 of the agenda, item 11.5, Greater Shepparton City Council 2023-2024 budget. There is a recommendation over a couple of pages. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion? Councillor Spinks.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd like to move, and I'm going to read it out. No. I'm going to move the recommendation as it's printed on pages 60 through 62 of the agenda.
60, 61 and 62. Very good, thank you, councillor Spinks. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Adam.
Yes, Mayor Sally, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, councillor Spinks. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, I will, and I apologise in advance, because I probably won't do justice to the actual bulk of the budget document, and I'll speak just more broadly that budgets take up a lot of our time. These are a very, very substantial part of our council role, and the conversation, the debate that goes into creating a budget report, a budget, council budget is immense. This year, I will say this is what I would call a skeleton budget. This is about being, after years of COVID, after the floods, with increasing costs for everybody knows that things are tight right now, and with being as fiscally responsible as possible. This year's budget is a skeleton budget, is the term I'm going to use. I always go back and forth on whether I'm happy with the budget, and ultimately that's something that all 9 of us do. These always end up being a compromise of 9 different sets of priorities, and then added into that all of the community submissions that come through, all of the community priorities that come through. The list of assets and groups and roles and responsibilities of council is truly as long as a piece of string. It could go on and on and on, and a budget does not. So this budget is a reflection of where we stand today. There are some great projects in there still. Do I wish there was some different projects and some more projects that aligned more strongly with my priorities? Yes, absolutely, as we each do, I'm sure. But I think it goes a long way to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible, a long way to make sure that our small towns are seen and heard as well, and a long way to put us in good positions for future years to come. So I'm endorsing it today. The perfect budget, is any budget perfect? I don't know. We can all argue about that till cows come home. But I think this is a good budget for what we need to do today. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, councillor Spinks. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sally. I want to just reinforce what councillor Spinks said there. The amount of work that goes into producing this, the back end, and all the staff, reacting week to week almost on councillors' comments and wants and aspirations. At the end of the day, a budget is a statement of financial priorities. That's basically all it is. There's a finite amount of money most times, and we need to spend it wisely. The last 2 years, obviously, or 3 years, has been affected greatly by COVID. 0% rate rise, that's obviously fed into this budget as well. The compounded effect of not having a rate rise for 2 years has obviously affected not only this budget, the reparation budget, or at the start of one at least. Council reacted, I think, properly to COVID. The community was potentially suffering, not just financially, but obviously emotionally as well. So I think it was correct to have that 0% rate rise for those 2 years. However, it's time to pay the piper, unfortunately, and this budget reflects that to a degree. It's not terrible, it's just not beyond our means, and that's what we've instructed the organisation to try and do, to try and recuperate some of the losses in the sense of our deficit that we are hopefully, and I'm confident we are starting to move that into the right direction, downwards, obviously. So it is what it is. The details are there. There's much detail to go through the community. It's been discussed ad nauseum for the last 3 or 4 months, if not longer. So it's there. Let's deal with it. This time next year, we'll hopefully have something that's slightly more palatable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Adam, are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Abdullah.
Thank you. I will actually echo the sentiments of my fellow councillors, Councillor Spinks and Councillor have spoken about it, about the challenges of preparing a budget, a council budget. The task of budget development is complex. It involves considering many needs, many wants, and wish lists of multiple stakeholders, including councillors, council administration, executive leadership team, and of course the community with so many different individuals, community groups and organizations. So to have a budget to deliver services to a population of approximately 63,000 people and their community groups with different aspirations and priorities is basically, it's a task in front of us every year. Then there are factors outside council's control in preparing a budget, especially in this year, as it has been pointed out earlier, that we had to consider inflation, the rising cost of material and insurance and wages, and then the response and recovery measures for unexpected emergencies like the October floods. There's always a trade-off between must-haves and nice-to-have items that have to go in the budget. And then there's a consideration of council's sources of revenue, which mainly comes in the form of rates revenue, but we also receive revenue in the form of federal financial assistance grants and other operating grants. Then there are decisions that we have to make about responsible borrowing, which basically it's our principle to borrow only for capital projects and not for our day-to-day operations. We are mindful of the need to strive for the underlying accounting position to be a surplus rather than a deficit. Unfortunately, at this stage, we have an underlying deficit, but we want to ensure the financial sustainability of the organization. Because the decisions that are made today are going to affect us in the future. And then we have to focus on our continued commitment to our environment and climate emergency action plans. We have affordable housing. We want to ensure a fair and equitable distribution of resources in line with our vision of leaving no one behind. And amid all these pressures, we also want to continue to take measures to enhance the livability of region in the form of thriving arts, culture, sports, tourism, and that space. So there are lots and lots of considerations. The efficiency reviews or the efficiency of our service delivery. This is something that's happening. That's always happening. That's always. It's like a continuous improvement process. So amid all these considerations, the resulting budget, which is now in front of us, is not perfect, as my fellow councillors have already said. Because it has yet to deliver on every want and every need. But it is the one that has been consulted with the community, that has been thoroughly debated and reviewed by councillors and executives, and is now presented for adoption. So some of the highlights of this budget include a $64.15 million capital budget, where 75% of the capital works program is to be spent on upgrade and renewal projects. We have around $26.35 million allocated to road renewal and nearly $2 million for the upgrade of our Shepparton Resource Recovery Center. We have to take care of all the ongoing efforts to respond to the October 22 flood. And for that, there have been allocations for our drainage renewal, for the upgrade of Margaret Street Pump Station, Lenny Street flood investigation. We all know how critical it is to start that that review. So that I'm glad to see that there is, the funds have been allocated to start our review and the design. Plus there is this purchase of a new portable stormwater pump. So this is all, this all is about managing our emergency, managing flood emergency in a better way in future. So those considerations were there, and then again, I'm pleased to say that that if not all, but some needs and priorities of our small towns have also been addressed to this budget. One of the positives is also that the underlying deficit is less than the previous year's underlying deficit. There's a change from $17.34 million to $7 million. So although we are not there yet in terms of achieving an underlying accounting surplus, but we are getting there. So this is a positive trend. So yeah, all in all, I endorse this budget, and at the same time, I would like to say thanks to our staff, our executive leadership team, the CEO, for their hard work, and to all my fellow councillors for debating and for reviewing this budget with all their intentions, good intentions and commitment to our community. Thanks very much.
Very good. Saved by the buzzer. Thank you, councillor.
Yes.
Are there any councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you very much, Mayor Saleh. Certainly, budgets are all about compromise. Compromising, we've got our Director of Finance that look at it certainly one way, and the public look at it a different way, and then you've got the councillors in between that are trying to jostle with it as well. So it's a matter of compromising, and really you've got to make sure that your income is greater than your outgoings, and this is what this budget particularly does. I mean, the percent increase, the base increase for the rate is 3.5%. Now, that's on the back, as has previously been mentioned, of 2 fiscal years of zero base increase. And this was directly as a result of listening to the public, and we'd heard that the public and responded to them in regards to the back of COVID and recovery. So that has been done. And a number of people came up to me in the street and said, thank you very much for that. And moving on to that, to those, I want to point out to the community members out there, particularly to the ones that presented us regarding their asks or concerns, that came in and saw us, that put in submissions after we sent out the draft budget. Please be assured that we have listened, and in many cases have followed up further with the viability of your requests. They haven't gone unnoticed. And I know that a number of councillors here have done so, as I have too, taken it up with the Manager of Finance, but also with the CEO in regards to a number of things. I point out to a few of them particularly that a number of festivals have come and seen us to see whether they could have a memorandum of understanding, and we'll look at that because there is at the moment we're preparing a new governance practices in regards to that based on the back of VARGO. So once we've got that, we will see where that fits. A pleasing fact is that a number of organisations also pointed out that our Sporting Future grant that had been eliminated from the draft budget, that they really did require that, and they put in submissions in regards to that, and pleased to say that $80,000 has been reinvested back into that. So that's a huge plus there. And I know Tatura, I've spoken about it before, Matsia Park, which is a long running hot pot in terms of trying to get VicTrack on board here and trying to get that parcel of land so that it can be redeveloped, but particularly the skate park, which our own internal audit in regards to the skate park audit demonstrated that particular skate park is a dangerous place. Now, we're certainly very sympathetic to looking at a practical solution there and a practical site. Once a site has been identified, then we can maybe put something into place there as well. Can I say that we had nominations from the Princess Park user group, and you know, we're probably closer to a direction in regards to that in the coming weeks as to where that will be as well. And of course, there's a report being done for the Shepparton Cycling Club in regards to their requirements of what they're, and particularly with the activity that's in and around the velodrome coming leading into the Commonwealth Games. Some of these things that have been requested, they can't all be done in the one budget. As Councillor Spink said, it's a very tight budget, this particular one, and we need to make sure that we are tight on it. But some of the things that come to on our table, we are looking at in future years. We are preparing reports. We're looking at how we can accommodate as many of them as we can. So please don't be disillusioned. If you don't see it in the budget, you have been considered. Thank you.
Councillor Brophy. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Similar to Councillor Brophy's comments, just with the community who may feel like they've missed out, it's not the case. It's a flexible thing. So monthly reviews, quarterly reviews, half-yearly reviews, things can change. We have seen that. So keep the pressure up. Now, am I happy 100% with the nuts and bolts of this budget and how we reach what we've reached in terms of structures and processes? Of course not. I never have been, and I'm not going to repeat myself about why I find some things fundamentally unethical, but it is what it is. And
Councillor Summer, I just might need to pick you up on the unethical part. What are you referring to?
Well, you know, I could mention it, but now I feel like I'm going to get in trouble. It's just the similar things, you know, equity around the municipal charge and recreational land, whatnot.
It's ethical, it's not unethical. I think it's ethics.
That's your perspective, that's my perspective.
Well, I think she was trying to say.
Yeah, okay. Please continue.
I think I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. This is one of two of our major programs of the year. One being the annual budget, and the other one is the CEO. But when we came into office back in 2020, we were right in the middle of COVID, and I think most people talked about COVID wasn't going to be a 5-minute exercise. We would need to be conservative in our outlook over the next few years, and that probably would lead up to my view would be between 5 and 6 years. And so we came in with a 0 increase in rates in 2021 and 0 increase in rates in 2022. The time has now come, as Councillor Dem has mentioned, is that we now need to bring that back into line. And if you look at the 3.5% increase in rates, in general rates, which is the maximum allowed by the state government. If you put that figure against the stated March 23 quarter CPI result of 6.8%, you can see that we're nowhere near even matching increase in prices. And so we've really got to be conservative again over the next few years. But one of the pleasing things is, and it's been highlighted in the last couple of agenda items, is that council hasn't lost its way in helping the community in terms of grants for community groups, and I think that's most important. The three big issues that's hit us over the last couple of years, of course, COVID. Already mentioned that, and that's going to continue. And when you look at their aqua moves. And even the caravan park that was affected by COVID. Then we had the big flood, and of course you go back to the caravan park, and our tourism industry has been hit. And the third big whammy for this particular budget, of course, is the increase in inflation from around about 2% up to about 6.8%, as I said before. So these things now have an impact on the budget. As been mentioned by others, we will be able to adjust as the time goes on from time to time, and we'll be looking at this, especially at the mid-year budget review. So well done to Chris Teitzel and his team, and Claire in particular. I'd just like to make mention of those folk who have really put their expertise towards this budget, and they've done a very, very good job. A complex document if ever I've seen one, but I think we've done a pretty good job. So well done. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. And as mentioned from my fellow councillors, there's been a very tight budget to accommodate all the expenses that we as council face throughout the year. But we still deliver on capital works budget of over 64 million. So it shows that we are doing something right. And as Councillor Abdallah said, the floods have really affected us, and the COVID too as well. We have to take these into consideration, and it has had a huge impact on the council's budget, as many of our council assets were affected during the floods. Aqua Moves was an example, Riverlinks, not to mention our roads were affected too as well, and that costs money to replace. You know, but we still have the great events and around our community to participate, and it complements our council plan, which is overarching to our community's expectations as well. At the same time, we also continued on with our business to ensure our community weren't, you know, hindered in that process, and we continued on with their business. So lots have been said, but I just want to again reiterate the words that Councillor Dobson said, and well done and congratulations to our financial team, as finance team as well. They do an awesome job. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillor James, are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? I'll just very briefly say a few things. Obviously, very easy to speak last and echo the comments that have been said. Obviously, it's been a challenging budget, and I think that's also been highlighted from a federal and state perspective as well. They're not easy to put together and try and have the capital investment that's there. And I think Councillor James just highlighted it there. You know, $60 million plus capital program as well that will see things still actively going on around our municipality as well, which is important for growth and attracting the investment that we need. People need to see things going. We had 81 submissions come through the budget consultation period as well, which I think was fantastic. And, you know, we were able to add a few of those items that were put forward into the current budget as well, which is pleasing for those that made those submissions as well. But look, it is a conservative budget. I remember saying when we released the draft budget that we would do our best to release a fair budget. Now, I know that is open to interpretation, but I believe under the current circumstance, it is a fair budget. We've still got a capital program in place. We've still got a number of events and all the things we love to see and do in the budget. And I think over the course of the next 6 months, we'll be consistently reviewing the budget. And as I mentioned, no different to the federal and state budgets. They're hard to manage. They're constantly reviewed, and we'll be doing the same thing from our perspective. Any closing comments, Councillor Spinks?
Just to say that someone once told me that you don't think about council until something goes wrong and affects you. And I think that's very true. I think it's worth reminding that of all, it's really nice to do the flashy projects and the larger pieces, and we love to give out, make sure we're supporting our sporting clubs and all of these different organisations and projects. But it's the day-to-day behind the scenes work that still flawlessly and endlessly, maybe not flawlessly all the time, but endlessly goes on. You know, our parks get mowed and our drains get fixed and our design work gets done and our master planning. There's just endless work that the council does, and this budget is so much more than just, you know, those priority pieces and the flashy pieces that get on the headlines. Council is your day-to-day existence in Greater Shepparton, and they do a great job. And I encourage everybody out there, the community has access to this document and can absolutely have a look at what it is and it's a dense document, but have a look at it, have a look through it. There is so much that council does, and they do not collect rates lightly, and this document is the reflection of what they do with it. So it's worth having a look. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. I'm going to offer the microphone to our CEO, Peter Harriott.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I just want to thank the councillors for acknowledging the staff. This is a very big component of our administrative workload each year. So I thank you for the acknowledgement to all councillors. And I'd also like to add my thanks to all the staff and the directors particularly, but particularly to Chris and Claire and the finance team who do a fantastic job to keep us on track in a financial sense. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Councillors, if there's nothing else, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Against? Sorry, I should have done that. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion carried. Unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 70 of the agenda, item 12.1, terms of reference, Shepherd and Shogun Advisory Committee. There is a recommendation. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'll move the motion on page 70 that the council adopt the terms of reference for the Shepherd and Showgrounds Advisory Committee as attached.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Can I have a councillor second that motion?
I'm happy to.
James. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, very briefly, there is some changes to the terms of reference. I think it's just bringing it in line with all our other advisory committees. Nothing too drastic, just it's more of a procedural type motion here, just to get things in order and make sure the terms of reference are reflective across the whole organisation, and they seem to be okay with me. Being the new rep on that committee, I thought I should move that motion.
Oh, very good of you. Councillor James, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, there's nothing more to add to that, Mayor Sally. We're pretty safe hands with Councillor Denny Adams there at the helm. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillor James, are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? No, any closing comments?
No, thank you.
Could agree with what he said.
That's it.
We'll leave it at that. We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 74 of the agenda, item 12.2, terms of reference for Taktura Park Advisory Committee. There is a recommendation. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion?
Apologies, I just need to step outside,
No problem.
leave the meeting for a moment.
Yep. Councillors, there is a recommendation on page 74 under agenda item 12.2, terms of reference, Taktura Park Advisory Committee. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion? Hey,
Right, yes.
you, Councillor Adam.
Medieval, aye there. Sally, I'll move the motion on page 74 that the council adopt the terms of reference for the Taktura Park Advisory Committee as attached.
Thanks so much, Councillor Adam. Councillor, second that motion.
I'll second.
Councillor Abdullah. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
This may rewind and repeat what I said for the previous motion. Again, it's just an administrative sort of upkeep our hours, and that's in line with all of them.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just,
No?
yeah, the terms of reference for the Taktura Park Advisory Committee, this motion is about council's adoption of the terms of reference, and the terms of reference have been revised. There have been some minor changes. Previous versions of the terms of reference were, some of the changes I'll read from the report here, and the role of council has been revised slightly. Now, in this report, according to this report, the terms of reference is basically saying that the council will provide the committee with administrative support through staff members in the Economic Development Department, and in the previous version, that support was coming from the Events Department. So that's a small change. There are some small changes with regards to the meeting procedure, and no further changes are made to the terms of reference. So basically some minor changes, and happy to note and endorse those changes. Thank you.
Councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? I can't go without acknowledging Mr. Taktura himself, Dana Ryan, in the gallery here with us. Obviously, very close to you, mate, and I'm fortunate to sit on the committee, and I know the power of work that you do and the committee members do as well in advocating for a very important piece of community asset that sits within Greater Shepparton as well. So personally, I have to take this opportunity to acknowledge the work you do and the many committee members that give up their time to meet quite regularly and advocate strongly and really enhance our region by further promoting that space there as well. So thank you. And if there's nothing else, I'll closing comments for Councillor Adam.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Very good, councillors. We will now go to the...
Just reiterate your words on my councillor Ryan here. Pleasure to see you, Gunnar.
Come more often.
Yes.
Very good. We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 77 of the agenda, item 12.3, potential future sale, lease or gift of council-owned land for affordable housing at 84 to 90 High Street, Shepparton, Rose Street's car park. The recommendation sits over 2 pages, and I believe we should have an updated recommendation in front of you. You should have received a copy of that. And I
Prior to that, Mayor Sally, I do declare a conflict of interest
yeah,
on this agenda item, so I'll stop myself, and if somebody could let me back in when the time comes.
thank you, councillor Dobson. He's out in the.
Waiting room.
Yep, we're all good. Okay, thank you, councillors. As mentioned, you should have an updated recommendation in front of you, and if a councillor could please move the recommendation as a motion. Councillor Abdullah.
Okay, I will move the recommendation in front of us on, over here as a motion. And if you want, I can just highlight the changes between the. So the changes are that in recommendation under bullet point number 4, we are saying that note that prior to commencing any proposed sale, lease or gifting. So 3 words have been added, lease or gifting. And similarly in bullet point number 6, where it says authorize the initiation, conduction and completion of a proposed sale. So the word public has been deleted. Lease or gifting has been added in this sentence. So yeah, those are the changes.
Very good. Would council like to second that motion? Councillor Brophy.
That motion.
Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. Now this motion is basically, it has got 2 main parts. One is about noting that the community engagement process conducted on the potential future sale, lease of.
They're asking if you can, they can't quite hear, but.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. No, sorry about that. So this motion has basically 2 parts. One is about noting the conclusion of the community engagement process for the potential future sale, lease or gift of council-owned land for affordable housing at 84-90 High Street, Shepparton High. So this is the High and Rose Street car parks. So so there was a community consultation process undertaken, and this motion is noting the conclusion of that motion of that process, and further to that, the motion is authorizing the CEO to conduct to start the expression of interest process, and there are a couple of bullet points giving some details of what that authorization includes. So that's the overall summary of this motion. I'll just add some context to this motion and some of my own sort of thoughts around this issue. As we all know, affordable housing is a very important issue for us. Affordable housing includes social housing, and by definition, affordable housing is housing for very low and moderate income households. Affordable housing is a complex and it's a big issue for us and in general for the whole of Australia, but the stats for Greater Shepparton are grim. We all know that. Greater Shepparton has nearly 27% of low-income households in housing stress, which means that these households are spending more than 1/3 of their income on housing. Greater Shepparton has rental affordability, which has decreased over the years, and there's a clear lack of diversity of housing stock in Greater Shepparton. According to a study, 42% of the total housing supply in our region by 2036 must be affordable housing to fill the current demand. So we know that the demand for affordable housing is high, but at the same time, the supply it's in short supply, basically. Any single organization or sector cannot resolve this problem that we have here in our region on its own. So it has to be a collaborative and collective effort. So those who keep wondering and asking that why council has to intervene and worry and consider offering its precious car parks and land for a sale, gift or lease of affordable housing, I just want to remind everyone about the reasons. So the reasons are because, first of all, housing is a basic human right. Every person should have a roof overhead regardless of their background, their gender, their race, and their financial position. And because the Planning and Environment Act 1987 identifies a role for councils to facilitate the provision of affordable housing in Victoria. And also because Council's Affordable Housing Strategy 2022 gives a clear direction to Council to work on this issue and do its part. And last but not least, because we can't just ignore this problem and pretend that the problem will go away through the work done by the private sector and community housing agencies. We need as many helping hands and partnerships as possible to speed up the delivery of the solution. And the solution is to have more affordable houses in the region. So since adopting this strategy, council officers endeavored to make some affordable housing recommendations. They brought some initiatives to council's consideration. Unfortunately, these initiatives did not materialize in increasing the affordable housing stock and diversity of housing options for those with very low and moderate income households. And we saw that in the matter related to the sale and lease of Nixon and Mott Street car parks. Obviously, there was those initiatives were not successful because of various reasons that we all know. In 2022, council officers through a study identified some council-owned car park sites, especially 4 most appropriate council-owned car park sites in the CBD for affordable housing use. And they recommended a community consultation on those 4 sites. This council decided to pick up only one of those sites for community consultation. So basically, this motion is about noting of the community consultation of that process for that particular site. I just want to say that we all know that the turnaround time for affordable housing projects on council's owned land and sites is prolonged, is a long process, due to a range of council's policies, legislations, and processes that we have to comply with. So any idea that is floated about an affordable housing project can easily take more than a couple of years before the houses are actually available to the market. So that's all that I have to say. And having said that, I also want to say that I am attentive to and I acknowledge those 121 submissions.
Time, Councillor Abdullah. Now, what do you got? 20 seconds?
20 seconds. I just want to say this, I endorse the motion, and I want to say, and I would like I look forward to the next steps, which is basically going to market for expression of interest.
Good, thank you, Councillor Abdullah. Councillor Bradshaw, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Saleh. This particular recommendation is really just taking the whole process to the next level. And it's still going to come back to council for ratification beyond that particular level as well. So we will get to see that again. There was some confusion in relation to where we were talking about in which particular car park. So it's called the High and Rose Street car park, but it really is the southeast corner of that particular car park, as opposed to the going from entering High Street and going straight through to Rose Street. It's adjacent to that. So it's, if you looked at it in an L shape, it's at the bottom southeast corner of that. Thank you also to the submitters who have put that in, the objectors as well as the affirmators who put that in regarding that particular development. This really has the ability to provide some inner city living for those who would like to take up this offer, and obviously there's an opportunity for mixed accommodation in that area, and for those that actually need housing desperately. This is a small, actually very, very small drop in the ocean of affordable housing demand, but it's not to those who are waiting on a home. We have seen that there is little council-owned land that is available to be accepted as affordable housing. The private market is accommodating social housing. I dare say probably 95% of the new developments in regards to social housing and affordable housing. So let's get this one developed. Let's get it successful, and we move on from there.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I think whilst I support the council's commitment to addressing the increasing concern of homelessness in our community and the large number of people that are on our waiting list for social housing, and there was quite a few, of course, I don't support this type of construction, and I've been consistent with that response right from day one. I don't believe it is the answer. I would prefer single-storey living with easy access to green space. I'm not a fan of the confined style of living. It's not healthy and it's restrictive, I believe. I relate to this when I go to Melbourne and I stay in an apartment style living in accommodation, and 2 days is about my limit. I feel really claustrophobic in that environment, and this is only my viewpoint, of course, but you know, that's my opinion. Other people can handle it, but I've had discussions with my community, members of First Nations people, and their preference is not to be in that environment, but given the fact that our current situation with shortages and we have a huge waiting list on our housing stock as well. As I said, I'm at the same time, I'm in two minds here. I know that the need's there, but I just don't support this type of construction. I'm aware of the 121 submissions that we received. A large number were concerned about the loss of car parking. I believe that wouldn't be a problem. Other concerns were on impacts of local business and increased pedestrian and traffic congestion. Again, I want to thank all the submitters who responded, and it's so important to have that consultation and the feedback from our community. It's absolutely vital for us. I think Beyond Housing, Winteringham and other developers do a great job in providing that housing to our community, and the need is there. It definitely is there. But again, I don't support this type of construction, and furthermore, I've been consistent in that approach right from day one, and I'll continue to not support that type of construction. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Ladson.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd just like to point out on page 85 of the agenda, affordable housing needed. There's the headline. Council acknowledges the need for more affordable housing in Greater Shepparton. Council notes that Greater Shepparton has the highest homeless rate in regional Victoria at 5.6 persons per 1,000 people. I'd like to echo Councillor Adula's thoughts around that housing is a basic human right, and I can echo that. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, Councillor Ladson. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Just in consideration to the motion itself, it does state that the task of the scope of the expression of interest will be determined by the CEO and officers, which I think it will come back to councillors, but as you can tell by the debate today, there's quite a few different perspectives here, and there's quite a few sticking points. So if we don't represent our community in those initial discussions, it's probably just going to fall over again. So hopefully we will be involved in those discussions, as has been verbally assured. But I personally am not supportive of this because, as maintained, I still think we're coming at it from the wrong angle. Look, everybody here agrees wholeheartedly that affordable housing is sorely needed. That's not what's in dispute in terms of what we're talking about. Previous governments' failures to address poverty And actually compound poverty has created an underclass, and now we're at that pointy end where we're really seeing those social outcomes. And it's not great, but it has prompted a massive spend under this Big Build housing initiative, which is very well-meaning and it looks good on paper, but governments have a tendency to throw money at problems and tick the box and don't always have an understanding of the repercussions of these decisions. Greater Shepparton should be acutely aware of social or affordable housing ventures that haven't been successful. Many residents would remember clustered social housing in North Shepparton. It didn't lift people up, let's put it that way. Those zones became a mecca of compounded disadvantage and they were actually discontinued. So no matter how many rose glasses we put on because we want to support this, because we want it to work, it is an established fact that poverty does cause issues. So these are environmental, financial, social, all those economic pillars. When you put poverty in there, they're not that terrific. So a large proportion of submissions against the Nixon Maud locations had similar concerns to that. They were in favour of pepper potting social housing across myriad locations, as am I. I do agree with high density living in the CBD, close to services, close to employment, no need for a car, which reduces costs. I don't agree with clustering one demographic together as a means of fixing homelessness, because poor social outcomes are a result of complex social factors, including generational disadvantage. And really, we cannot fix homelessness, no matter how many buildings we build, unless we're willing to drill down into the real issue, which is poverty. That's a societal issue. So I'd hope that the scope for this expression of interest does include an open process with only a certain percentage of the building designated for affordable housing to still get that pepper pot type of infiltration there. It would ensure a mix of social outcomes, pride in place, reduce any stigma. The stigma is terrible that could be attached to a perceived slum building. Obviously, it's not, but we see that certain addresses around town still hold that stigma because of what we've done in the past, and we haven't necessarily learned from that, and they're still suffering. So we also need to tighten our requirements for developers to provide a percentage of affordable housing within any new developments. That apparently has been a thing, but I'm not sure how we've enforced it or whether it's been enough. But that's another angle which we could use to tackle this. But yeah, and I've mentioned many times, I also don't necessarily approve of building over car parks because we're not Melbourne. I know that council itself has limited land, but nothing is stopping us from acquiring more land for this purpose. We are not Melbourne. We could purchase land. Car parks do not provide the degree of public surveillance necessary to deter crime. I'm not saying this is going to come from the residents. I'm saying if you put a building over a car park, it's a lovely little spot where nobody can see what's going on, and the residents would probably get the blame. I might sound very, very silly there, but public surveillance does seem, lack of public surveillance does seem counterintuitive to positive planning outcomes and OHS principles. So in short, look, happy to follow the process, but I don't hold great faith that high-rise buildings over car parks are a solution to homelessness. In fact, I think supporting the big build by scrambling for the easiest option could make things worse and increase the divide between the haves and the have-nots. So I want to work towards a solution, but I don't want to make things worse. And that's why I'm voting against this.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Adam.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I was going to be very brief, but now that I've heard all this commentary, I don't think I've got enough time to actually reflect on all this. However, fundamentally, council don't have to do anything. We're not obliged to deliver social housing or any form of housing to anybody. That's a state and federal responsibility. However, a few years ago, this council decided, because of the obvious problem that Greater Shepparton was judged to have had and that's correct, we do have that large problem. We decided as a proactive and progressive council that we would do whatever we could to assist in affordable housing. And fast forward a few years, here we are now, and we decided that our car parks are the most tangible sort of asset that we can actually hand over or lease or possibly sell at a low price. So with this particular motion is about taking that first step. It clearly notes in here that people who've got objections that note that any proposed sale, lease or gifting, I think there's a couple of words added in there by Councillor Abdullah, will be subject to future community consultation under sections 114, 115 of the Local Government Act. So, and be subject to further consideration. So this by no means is actually delivering anything at all. It's delivering that first step. However, I had some comments from councillors about how they weren't particularly fond of that style of architecture, nor am I. I don't think anyone would prefer to live in a multi-storey apartment block effectively. I know that. But some people don't have the luxury of that choice, unfortunately. It's on the street or in that place. It's all about the site location. We understand that. And there was comments made about formy projects over the years have turned into these sort of enclaves in a sense. Well, this is not that at all. This is actually putting a small, and this is small compared to what's going on in Greater Shepparton. There's probably 150 separate dwellings being built in Shepparton as we speak by these different groups that deliver these types of services and buildings. So this is really a drop in the ocean, I think, as Councillor Brophy said earlier on. That's what it is. It's we're making a mountain out of a molehill, a mountain out of a molehill, absolutely, over this. It could be potentially mixed. It's up to us to decide what that will look like in the end. I think it's just behind the new police complex that's been built there. So any matters of or concerns about behavioural problems, not that there'll be police on site, but you know, it's a secure site. I really think we're making a big deal out of this. I would like to see it come to fruition. As I said, we're trying to put low income type structures, as Councillor Summers said, pepper potted throughout the area, not in one location, not in one suburb or one development. That's not this at all. I think this is actually in line with that policy of putting them throughout the whole community. We're talking about lifting people up. If you're putting people into an accepted enclave, I think this goes against that. This will hopefully put people in a different environment, and hopefully that may change people's attitudes moving forward. So, as I said, I could go on forever, but I won't. I fully support this.
Councillor Adam, are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Yeah, Councillor Spinks.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. This is such an interesting one because right now, this item isn't anything. Could be everything, but it isn't anything. There's not even anything on the table right now. So it's a weird one to debate. And there's also a real element of deja vu. We've sort of already been here. In some ways you could say we already know how it's going to end, but gosh, I hope that's not true. So all of this is kind of just going to be a bit of a brain dump, so enjoy. Firstly, to some of the commentary that's happened so far, I find it interesting whenever we talk about clustering, we are only ever talking about poor people. You never talk about wealthy people all being in one area. It's only ever the poor. When we talk about poverty, I feel like maybe the thing that makes that harder is not having a house. When we talk about apartment living, I take issue with that. Was nobody ever a young person that just wanted to move into their first home that was cheap and easy to maintain? Green space doesn't mean backyards, it can mean local park spaces. Not everybody wants a backyard. Apartments are a very, very normal type of living. Greater Shepparton really only has one type of housing. That's a part of the issue. Have you ever never, maybe one day we'll all be older people that are wanting to downsize into smaller places as well. Apartments are not the enemy. They're perfectly fine forms of housing. Into the reasoning of why we need this. We all know that we need this. We all say that we support it. We know there is a clear need within Greater Shepparton having one of the highest homelessness populations and an ever-growing wait list, with stories of hidden homelessness and of community members even with a house but no longer being able to buy food or run their heaters and having nothing more than a glorified tent. of a rental and housing crisis and young people unable to find rental homes, let alone be able to dream of buying a home anymore, and of women over 50 being the fastest growing homeless demographic. In response to this, we, council, have an affordable housing policy, a council plan that claims to leave no one behind, and an affordable housing reference group that is our own council-endorsed panel of subject matter experts that further have sent through their support of progressing this particular item. As councillors of Greater Shepparton, we have a wealth of knowledge, data, subject matter experts and policy documents that support this project and ones like it. Affordable and social housing projects are going up all over Shepparton already. We have plenty of unit developments already existing that would be considered clustering in terms of number. When it comes to designing buildings, we haven't had a say in any of the other large projects, such as the new High Street construction or the courthouse or the North Wyndham Street complex. And past NIMBY controversial projects such as the Youth Foyer and Elders Facility now exist in harmony with their neighbouring areas. We know these projects can be done. If this wasn't a council project, we wouldn't hear anything about it and it would start to exist and probably be totally fine. The reason these projects don't get across the line is because of individuals and the prejudices that stand in the way. This recent community consultation we did in regards to this item was absolutely valuable. It always is. We were able to tease out some of the key considerations that need to be addressed if anything is to exist on this property. That is always going to be of value. But what we also saw was that the Nixon Maud community consultation has really set a precedent for community biases and for the way that people communicate about these kind of projects. I also want to raise, it's all well and good for any of us to sit here and say that we have concerns, but I would love for just one person on that wait list to get in here and tell us how they feel about our concerns, really. I am fully supportive of this moving forward. I don't know what it's going to end up looking like. I don't know whether it's going to be social housing, affordable housing, a mixed use project. Maybe it will not even exist. I am supportive of finding out. I am supportive of doing whatever we can do in regards to this issue. When I hear us talk about supporting affordable housing but having concerns, what I'm hearing is us saying that if we aren't happy with it, we aren't going to give you housing, and I take issue with that, because at the end of the day, that's what we do then, is we do not give housing. That's the issue on the table. Do we give housing or do we not? What it looks like is up for debate, but that's the end result. I do appreciate that there is honest conversation happening around this table, because we've spent the last year and a half debating various versions of this proposal. And after all of that work, it got to the end, which is us around the table, and didn't get anywhere. One attempted to, it fell through. One might happen, haven't seen anything of it yet. And I would hate for us to, at this very first step of the path, commit our council resources, our council time and our council money, which is our ratepayers' money, to a process that we probably already know is going to just be the same all over again. So I really hope that everybody around this table is going to vote for this to move forward to an expression of interest to see what comes of it. But I hope that in doing so, you are also committing to a positive outcome at the end of this. We can create parameters, we can do what we need to do to make sure that it looks great. But if you just fundamentally do not agree with affordable housing in the CBD or building anything above car parks, I actually urge you to vote against it, because the wishy-washiness of this process is getting in the way of people getting houses, and it's getting in the way of the work that council needs to do. So that was a lot of different stuff, and I'm going to wholly and fully support this, and I encourage everybody to please also do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sphinx.
Yeah.
I think I might be the only one that's left to speak. I think everyone else has had an opportunity to speak. Yeah, just very quickly. Yeah, I think this particular proposal, and obviously it's been highlighted by a number of us, those for and against. But I just want to sort of really focus around the steps that we're going through. And I think over the course of the journey, the last 18 months, we as a collective of councillors and council officers have probably learned how we can go about this in a better way, and that's, you know, bringing community along on the journey and understanding that perhaps the cart before the horse isn't the best way to go about it, which I believe is what we did last time. And this particular proposal is, we've identified a parcel of land, we've put it out for community consultation, We now want to know and see what can be achieved on that parcel of land. And I think the key message there is perhaps around something that, and I'm personally favourable of, a mixed-use type of development. What that is, I'm not sure, but I think we're got enough smart people around the table to determine a proposal that can perhaps satisfy all needs and acknowledge what Councillor Spinks is saying, that, you know, the purpose is to provide housing, and let's not categorise it to a certain demographic. Let's look at it as broadly as we possibly can. I'm a supporter of CBD living, so if that can be achieved, I think we can work out the nitty-gritty in between. But I think this is you know, another important step to understanding what can be achieved on that parcel of land. And look, on, dare I say it, and obviously it has been noted, I think Councillor Adams said that, note that any proposed sale, lease or gifting of this land will be subject to further community consultation. So the reality is we go to the next step, we see what can be achieved. Yeah, there will be a lot of work that will be undertaken between now and then, and if it can persuade enough of us to support it, then so be it. If not, we go back to the drawing board again, but there will be another opportunity to review this process. I look forward to doing that. Closing comments, Councillor Abdullah.
Thank you. Yeah, a few things. Yes, I think in summary, this is it. This motion is about going one step further and starting the EOI process. But having heard so many comments from my fellow councillors, a couple of things I want to highlight. One is that I think Councillor Adam, you mentioned that this council does not need to do anything in this space, and it's state and federal government's responsibility. But just want to draw your attention to that June 2018 development, where the Planning and Environment Act 1987 was amended to include the objective to facilitate the provision of affordable housing in Victoria, encouraging council to consider the need and opportunity to implement affordable housing. So definitely there is a role for council in this space. Secondly, and I do, yeah, thank you. And point number 2 is about, I've heard a lot of personal preferences, and Councillor Sam Spinks has already addressed that concern, not to say addressed, but spoken about that concern. I think as councillors, we need to look beyond I, and we need to look at the greater good of the community. So yes, we all have our personal preferences, but we also need to look at the need of the time and available options. We can't have a perfect, if we don't have a perfect solution, does it mean that we disregard and reject any good solution? So again, we should not be aiming for, we should not be disregarding good solutions in the hope of getting a perfect solution at some point in time. The other thing is that I think I also heard that this particular project is going to be just a drop in the ocean. Yes, I agree, but given the dire states that we are in, every drop counts. So we cannot afford to not do anything. And I understand and I acknowledge all the concerns that have been raised through all the submissions that we have received. So I really hope that those concerns such as loss of car park or clustering or safety concerns, all of that can be addressed and should be addressed without halting this process at this stage. Because halting this project at this stage would mean slowing down the process, and it will be detrimental to the community and to those people, those 1,600 plus people or households who are currently on the waiting list. And so I really support the council to go ahead with this EOI process and for it to consider all the community concerns and ensure that the project actually ends up increasing the affordable housing stock.
Wrap up.
Thanks.
Councillor Abdullah. Okay, thank you so much, councillors. If there's nothing else, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Can we let Councillor Dobson back in if that's okay? Welcome back, Councillor Dobson. Can you hear us okay? Very good, thank you. Councillors, we now go to page 91 of the agenda, item 12.4, which is new business grant, Escape Smash Play Shepparton, award of funding. The There is a recommendation there. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Latson.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd just like to move the recommendation on page 91 that the council note the successful applicant awarded funding under the delegated authority for round 3, final round of the 22-23 new business grant program as follows, for $8,500.
Suffice. Yes, okay. Too easy. Yeah, thank you, councillor Latson. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Summer. Councillor Latson, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, councillor Latson. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just to welcome the business. Looks like a great initiative and can't wait to see how it works. So, yeah.
Councillor Summer, are there any councillors that would like to speak against the recommended motion? No. Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? I might just really quickly, I'm actually really excited about this business. If this is the one that I've seen promoted where you go and do all the crazy things and smash things and all that, I reckon we might schedule this post council meetings or briefings. I think it'd be really good.
Side of your character.
Let it all out, let it all out. I think we all need it sometimes, so I'm glad they're opening. We look forward to joining you down there one afternoon. So if there's nothing else, Councillor Latson, would you like any closing comments?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd just like to welcome the Greater Shepparton and that they're bound to be down in Wyndham Street, and then I'll point out that there's another one in Ballarat of the same nature. So, yeah, give them a shout out for Escape Smash Play Shepparton.
Very good, thank you. Okay, councillors, we will now go to vote. All those in favour? Carried unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 96 of the agenda, item 12.5, Community Sustainability Grant 2022-23, round 2. There is a recommendation. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion? Mr. Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. As per page 96 of the agenda, the recommendation that the council note the successful applicants awarded funding under delegated authority for round 2 of the 2022-23 Community Sustainability Grants Program as follows. I won't read them all out, but they are there to read.
Thank you, councillor Brophy. Can I have a councillor second that motion?
In the motion, thank you, councillor. Mayor Sally. Sorry.
Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sally. Look, a little bit of advertising works wonders, and as I recall, after round 1, there was only about $7,000 given out in regards to this particular community sustainability grant, and but round 2 we're awarding just over $18,000 across 7 different organisations. So we did give a shout out at the time for people to get on board and to submit. So obviously people heard that, which was great. They're all worthwhile. They're all addressing climate change. Can I note Mr. Robert McLean's article from the yesterday's Shepparton News, where I know Rob pretty well, and he would be very pleased to see, in respect to his article yesterday, this small but significant contribution by council that in asking for the community via this community funding stream that really combats climate change. So I think he'd be very happy to see that. And I think that other organisations who have missed out perhaps were a little bit stiff on that because it was pretty oversubscribed, but they were 2 worthwhile submissions as well. But overall, it's a great result.
Thank you, councillor Brophy. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, I don't think I can expand on that. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillor Adam, are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Dobson? All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 101 of the agenda, item 12.6, which is CN 2296, Professional Veterinary Services. There is a recommendation. Councillor, put that forward as a motion. Make it a mover. Spinks.
I will move that the council, 1, accept the tender submitted to GV Vets for contract 229 professional veterinary services for the Animal Management Department. 2, note that the contract term is for a period of 2 years with 2 options to extend for a further 1 year each. The estimated contract value over a 4-year period is $1,592,000 inclusive GST. And 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to execute such documents as are necessary to give effect to this resolution.
Thank you, councillor Spinks. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Can I get a second? Councillor Letson. Councillor Ladson, were you seconding that motion or did you mean? Yep. Thank you. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Only to read the conclusion from the report. The evaluation panel is satisfied that GV Vets have the required experience and capability to carry out the requirements of the contract and be appointed to provide professional veterinary services to the animal management team for the initial 2-year contract term. Thanks.
Thank you so much, councillor Spinks. Councillor Ladson, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillor Ladson, are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Any closing comments, councillor Spinks?
No, thank you.
Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 108 of the agenda, which is item 13.1, which is designation of confidentiality of information reports. The following reports and attachments have been designated confidential by the Chief Executive Officer under Governance Rule 108 and in accordance with the definition of confidential information in the Local Government Act 2020, the Act. Item 13.3, Early Years Report. Item 13.4, 97 Creeks Drive land purchase. These documents contain information which is the Local Government Act 2020 definition of council business information, being information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released. I further designate the following attachment as confidential. Item C92296, final moderated evaluation report. This document contains information which is consistent with the Local Government Act 2020 definition of council business information, being information that would prejudice council's position in commercial negotiation if prematurely released. Councillors, there is a recommendation under item 13.2 to close the meeting to members of the public. Can I please have someone put that recommendation forward as a motion? Councillor Adam.
I'll put the recommendation that pursuant to section 66-1 of the Local Government Act 2020 resolve that the council meeting be closed to members of the public for consideration of the following confidential items. Item 13.3, Early Years Report. Item 13.4, 97 Creeks Creek land purchase, and item 13.5, CN 2296, professional veterinary services.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Can I have Councillor second that motion?
That, Mayor Sally.
Councillor Spinks. All in favour? Motion carried. We will now close the meeting to the public. Sorry, guys, for being here, Gunnar. We appreciate it, and others as well. Thank you. Very good. Welcome back. Item 14, documents for signing and sealing, nil received. Item 15 and 15.1, which is councillor activities, 15.1.1, councillor activities for May 2023. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that?
I'd like to move the motion, thank you, Sally, on page 109, that the council receive and note the summary of the councillors' community interactions and informal meetings of councillors.
Thank you, councillor Adam. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Ladson. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
I have, just briefly, that's obviously, as the months progress, there seems to be more and more events and different activities that councillors get involved in. They're all listed there. There's some great things there. I think most councils get to most things, so yeah, it's a great list of activities that we're all involved with.
Very good. Thank you, councillor Adam. Councillor Ladson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sally. It's that time of the month for Laddo's deep dive into councillor activities for May 2023. Special mentions include Illuminate at Victoria Park Lake, the grand opening of the Murchison Men's Shed, and the Volunteer Recognition Award Ceremony. Well done to all volunteers nominated for striving to improve the livability of Greater Shepparton. If there's a local unsung hero that goes above and beyond in their volunteering role, I encourage you to nominate them for the next round. The crescendo for the month of May would have to be the Shepparton Netball Association's celebration of Val Barras. 80 years volunteering. What a magnificent effort. That's it for Laddo's Deep Dive. Back to you, Mayor Sally.
Very good, mate, from Montour. Thank you. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Just a couple I wanted to point out there, which were really significant during months as well. One I want to point out was the Murchison Men's Shed, the opening of the ceremony. So good. That shed for the men out in that community too as well, where they were operating from a little 3 metre by 3 metre shed to operate where they are now. It was just, it's so encouraging to see that in our community, and men's sheds, not just Murchison, but all men's sheds around our region do an awesome job. It's a great project. The other one I wanted to mention, a couple, was the Shepparton Region Reconciliation Group Sorry Day. Again, that was instrumental in regards to the recognition of the Sorry Day. There was another passionate speech by one of our community members. Again, like the last year, it was very raw, very open and very honest about the effects of generation. And I just wanted to compliment the organisers of that. Another great event, which keeps getting a little bit bigger and bigger. But although this issue was a little bit disappointing in the numbers, I thought it was down on last year. But again, still great to have that in our community. I thank the council for supporting it again. The other event was the Sky News with Paul Murray out at the Move. That was a great event. Our mayor, of course, starred on that production on the night. Councillor Brophy and I attended, and I think Councillor Summer at the end too as well. And Councillor Adam, not sure, but that was an interesting night. From my point of view, I wasn't all that happy with the evening, but still, it was good. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillors that would like to speak to the motion. Any closing comments, Councillor Adam?
No, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 11 of the agenda, item 16.1. Notice of motion 10/2023 Rainbow Pride flag to maintain as default flag at Queen's Gardens. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I would like to move that the council resolve to fly the Rainbow Pride flag as the default flag on the Queen's Gardens flagpole indefinitely until a permanent location is identified.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Abdullah.
I'll second that motion.
Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. Okay, this is a very straightforward, sensible action, and I don't feel the need to make this a large moment, as quite frankly, it just makes sense. Council raised the Rainbow Pride flag at the Queen's Gardens on the 17th of May for the very first time as a part of the Ida Hobbit event. At that community event, I spoke from the heart about why flying the rainbow flag is important, and many of you here heard that speech. A number of my fellow councillors stood with me in person and behind the scenes in support and strength. On that day, we stood against homophobia, biphobia and transphobia, and with the flag raising, we visibly supported our local LGBTQIA+ community members. We have continued to fly the rainbow flag on the Queen's Gardens flagpole throughout the month of June, which is Pride Month, as a continued visible display of safety, inclusion and celebration of our LGBTQIA+ community. Today, I ask that we continue to fly the flag ongoing as our commitment to the safety, inclusion and celebration of the LGBTQIA+ community, as this commitment does not end on the 30th of June, but continues every day. This motion requires no resources. The flag is already flying on a flagpole that is already installed. There is no financial cost, there is no personnel cost, there is no legal cost. Recognising that it is a community flagpole, this motion does not even ask for sole use of the flagpole, but only for the rainbow flag to fly as the default flag when the flagpole is not otherwise being used. I ask for the flag to fly as the default flag, but I also recognise that this is only an interim action as the advisory committee and council staff operationally continue to work towards a permanent flagpole in a location to be identified. This is one of those things that tomorrow will be something that council just does. But for nothing to become something, there has to be a moment when it is decided, and this is that moment. There is much more work to be done, but continuing to fly the rainbow flag is a small but mighty act that needs this decision right now. And then we can move on to everything else, and the many, many, many queer people in our community can go past the Queen's Gardens, look up at the flag and think, yes, this is a council that wants me to be safe, seen and included. I am welcome here. So again, I cannot stress this enough. This motion requires no resources of any kind. In fact, really the only thing it needs is moral support. On behalf of myself as a queer person with a voice at this table telling you that this is important to me, on behalf of our LGBTQIA+ advisory committee who unanimously support this motion as documented in the last month's committee meeting minutes, and on behalf of our LGBTQIA+ community who we stood beside and confirmed our commitment to representing them and who cheered as the flag was raised, we ask that you support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to endorse Councillor Spinks' motion and congratulate her for taking that initiative. And as you have rightly said, it does not need any resources. The flag is there, and you have also highlighted that in future, if there are any other needs, then plans can be altered. So yes, I agree that all it needs is our moral support. And as you have said, that this is indeed, it's a small and mighty act. So in line with the principles of social justice, diversity and inclusion and everything that this council aspires for in terms of leaving no one behind, I think this action is appropriate, and I fully support that. That's all. Thank you.
Councillor Abdullah. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Saley. Firstly, well done to Councillor Spinks for putting forward a notice of motion that she is very passionate about. Councillor Spinks has a vested interest in this area, and I applaud and support most of what she puts forward. However, I cannot support the rainbow flag as a default flag. A default flag on a government flagpole, be it even local government, should be the Australian, the Victorian or the City of Greater Shepparton flag under the official flag protocols. At intervals though, however, with the support of special occasions or significant days or weeks, such as Ida Hobbit Day, NAIDOC Week, which is coming up, or even the Albanian Harvest Festival, which is located in the Queen's Gardens as well. However, I am pleased to hear that perhaps a more permanent solution to this request is being investigated, and I certainly look forward to a positive outcome there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Mayor Saley. For many hundreds of years, previous governments have made decisions that have disadvantaged and even criminalised those who identify with the LGBTI+ community. So there is welcome irony in this, that this tier of government are willing to at least vote on erecting a semi-permanent rainbow flag within Greater Shepparton. That alone should be applauded. It demonstrates how far we've come as a country and how far we've come as a community. It shows a recognition that nobody deserves to feel victimized or marginalized because of their sexuality, that everyone deserves to be happy as long as they're not hurting anybody, and any residual stigma around being non-binary does need to stop. So despite the pockets of debate within the broader community going on at the minute, I believe supporting this flag is on the right side of history. The flag would be a semi-permanent reminder that people from all across the rainbow spectrum are welcomed and are valued. It could mean the difference between self-harming or being reminded that you are not alone in existing. There is no place for bullying and discrimination. The best way to cut through all that nonsense is by visual, public, and durable gestures that say, we see you and we support you. And this couldn't be a better example of that. So thank you, Councillor Spinks, for your unwavering support of the LGBTIQA+ community and for giving councillors this opportunity to at least vote on the possibility of having that flag there. So I hope all the other councillors feel the same way. And if not, let's move forward without forgetting that there are other opportunities in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor Sully. The Pride flag colours each hold a different meaning, and each colour represents an important value of LGBTQIA community. And I'm pleased to see and witness last year or the year before the inclusion of the brown and black colours on the flag, and that was basically to include people of colour. So I'm very pleased to see that happen. The widespread use of the flag allows LGBTQIA and individuals to connect with each other and feel included, and that's important. No matter where you are and how you identify, the rainbow colours are meant to signify that you are included, you're welcome and you're safe, and you're part of an increasing LGBTQIA community. Like the colours of my flag, they represent who I am. They have a meaning, a sense of unity, pride, and importantly, identity. And I support this, I endorse this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor James. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Adam.
Very briefly, Sally, it's all about acceptance. That flag may not represent a lot to a lot of people. It certainly shouldn't offend anybody, but it does supply the people who are part of that community a sense of pride, exactly that, and acceptance, as I said, within the wider community, as they should feel, as they should be. So I've got no issue. And as far as being the word default, well, obviously when there's other events on that require that flagpole, they'll be no doubt used. They'll be using that flagpole. That just may hasten the urgency around finding a permanent location for the flag if people do feel that that's not the right location. So I fully support it. I see no issue with it whatsoever.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Mayor Sully. I don't know whether the council have got a policy on flags. I'm not too sure, and if they haven't, perhaps it's time that we looked at a policy that would include all sorts of organisations. I'm a bit complexed about the issue. We put in a notice of motion some weeks ago regarding an avenue of flags, and I would have thought that the rainbow flag would form part of that avenue of flag, as well as the Aboriginal flag and the flags of all other countries, as a welcoming symbol to all people, that everybody is welcome and respected within our community. Having the flag as a default in the Queen's Gardens, I hear what Councillor Brophy has said, and so as much, and I do support obviously the LGBTQ community, and I was there at the Ida Hobbit Day in support of Councillor Spinks and others. So it's a complex question. You know, I will be in support of it, but I do have queries about it. Thank you, Mayor Charlie.
Thank you, councillor Dobson. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? I'll just speak briefly. Obviously, thanks, councillor Spence, for bringing this to the table. I know you're very passionate about it. You showed that obviously in person at Ottawa Day as well. But yeah, I mean, initially I had it highlighted here, just the wording around the default component and probably looking at more around what would that mean to just sort of the other flags that have been highlighted by councillor Brophy as well. But I mean, I don't really have a problem with it being there, but just probably the appropriate wording. And I would have rather have just sort of bring back a recommendation to find just a permanent location and just deal with it there, and sort of rather than all the nitty gritty in between. So yeah, I mean, look, at this stage, I'm probably in some ways a little bit sort of on the fence with it, acknowledging that we need to make a decision. I get that, but probably the wording probably doesn't just sit well with me from that perspective. But that's probably all I have to say. If there's nothing else from councillors or closing comments for councillor Spinks.
Yes, thank you. To the word default. So that is purely because it's a community flagpole. Let's be realistic here, that flagpole's empty. There was nothing on it. It wasn't doing anything. It's not like we're taking any space from anybody else. The only reason the word default exists is so that it may remain a community flagpole that may never get used. But at least it is a community flagpole. And all it simply means is that when there is no other flag flying, that flag will be in place. And I ask that because we've already raised it. It's already flying. It's already meaning so much to some of our community. I'm asking you not to take it away. I also want to just highlight that I tried to move something similar to this a couple of years ago, and the resounding feedback I got was that we have to wait for the committee to suggest this to us, to recommend this to us. So I did that. I've been very patient. I've done my due diligence, and I've now got full support from the community, and I'm now raising that here. This is not me bringing this. This is me bringing this on behalf of an entire community that exists within Greater Shepparton that is asking for this to happen. Again, I don't want to make this larger than it needs to be. I'm simply asking for a flag to be flown, to continue being flown. I am going to finish with this. This is the location and decision that I, as chair of the LGBTQIA+ Advisory Committee, support. This is the location and decision that the LGBTQIA+ Advisory Committee representatives unanimously support. This is the location and decision that our local LGBTQIA+ community members came together to celebrate the flag being raised and support. This motion is the voice of the LGBTQIA+ community, so if you vote against it, then you do not speak for them and you are not representing them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, councillor Spinks. If there's nothing else, we will go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Ladson, are you voting or? Sorry, I think I'll do it again. All those in favour? Against? We'll get it right.
Do it again.
Watching being.
All those in favour? Against? Motion carried.
Division, please.
All those in favour? Councillor Spinks, Councillor James, Councillor Summer, Councillor Dobson, Councillor Ladson, Councillor Adam, Councillor Abdullah. Against? Councillor Brophy and Councillor Sali. Councillors, we now go to item 17, urgent business not included on the agenda, nil received. Item 18, close of meeting, which I will now do at 5:18 p.m. Thanks so much.
Thank you.